Welcome back. Today we have a fun episode. We're going to be able to review the playoff matchups in the divisional round. I should have got one in before the wildcard round, but I've been a little busy. But now we are down to the final 8 teams. They shall be pretty good matchups here. I'll start with my division rival here, Atlanta, playing against Pittsburgh here. Atlanta-Pittsburgh, I could be wrong. I think they played last year. I have to double check that. I didn't before. But this is an interesting matchup because we do have a lot of trades between these two teams. Atlanta has picked up two really good position players from Pittsburgh in the last 2 years. Last year, they picked up Ronnie Mauricio, and he has been a beast in Atlanta. He's actually taken it up another notch. He's really solid in Pittsburgh. Had a couple of really strong seasons there at 4.3 and 3.9 WAR. He was a 153 OPS plus player and only 88 starts that one season. Absolutely dominant at second base for them quite a bit of that season. Moved around a little bit to third base, and then he had a full season starting at 132 games total. Had a 122 OPS plus, stole 10 bags. Came over to Atlanta last year and just dominated. Hit 280, 15 home runs, but he had a really good stolen base numbers and defense to really up his WAR total. So he's been almost a 5 WAR player, which is almost like top 3, like top 5 type at his position in the entire league, and right just a notch below kind of MVP status there. Some real superstars in our league, so he doesn't get MVP, but there's been some down years where MVPs get like 6 WAR in real life. I think Acuna won it in like 2024 in our league, or 2025 with like 6.1 WAR. So anyways, he's really, really good. Then you have Devers had a little bit of regression this year. He wasn't the offensive dynamo he was in Boston. He was essentially probably about 20% worse. He went down a little bit. He was like a 70 contact guy at 1.65, 60 for a long time there. And then just these last couple of years here, he's fallen all the way down to 50. Still a really good player. My scout is only average on him, so it might be 55 or so, but he is still a really solid player, but he wasn't quite that superstar I think they were hoping for when they signed him to this big deal. But it's not like he's making 30 million a year. Still a solid player. Could be like a 3 WAR guy next year. Still has a lot of range at third base at 60 there, so solid profile nonetheless. But the real star of this team is Acuna Jr. and Freddie Freeman. That duo has just been around forever, so that's going to be really fun. They lost Garrett Cole really fell off a little bit this year, so they actually released him. So now their big pitching has turned into just a couple stars now as Pearson, Soroka. They don't have that 3-4 super talented arms like they used to have, but still have two really good ones in Pearson, Soroka, as good as any 1-2 pretty much, except maybe the team they're playing there. Pittsburgh has a pretty dynamic number 1 and 2, as we'll see in a second here. So really, really good bullpen. Pendretti had the best release season in baseball. The guy was 3.8 WAR. A crazy leverage, 2.2, meaning all important big situations there he's coming in for. 40% strikeout rate, which is top 5 in the league. Guys only hit 216 off him. Just super consistent, really limited the home runs. Really nasty profile there. And a lot of high talented arms. You see like their stuff ratings in the bullpen here, 65, 70, 75, 60. Nothing below 60 there. You see a lot of green, really good movement here. Everyone has green movement except these two. And a couple guys with real high control there. So just a really solid, balanced bullpen. Makes sense why they won 97 games. Really good overall team. They're 5th and 4th in just about everything here you look at. So that really balanced team. And then Pittsburgh, on the other hand, is a little more offensive heavy than they've ever been. The best offense Pittsburgh's ever had. They've been a really good team for a long time. They've usually survived on the pitching and defense. This year, their defense fell off a bit, but they made up for it with some awesome offense. And the pitching was still really good. They are second in pitcher WAR, second in run average. Really, really nasty top couple pitchers here. The Patino is as good as it gets in this league. Next to Kyle Wright, he's probably one of the best. And then you have Jack Flaherty's really good. Those two guys are both solid this year. The young pup here got hammered a little bit on the home runs and some limited sample size. He ratio-wise looks like a superstar, like 6-7 WAR ace if you ever get that home run total down. 2 runs per 9 is way too high. You want most guys at 1.0 or lower. If you're a heavy home run stadium like mine, you can survive 1.2, 1.3, but anything above that is too many home runs. So if he could learn to limit his home runs, maybe get some more movement, this guy's going to be one of the best pitchers in baseball. So depending on the team he's playing, if you play at Pittsburgh where it's hard to hit home runs, he could have a deadly start and still, even against that really good Braves lineup, probably give you a really good outing. It just really depends. It really depends if he gives up that big 2 or 3 run home run or not. But then you have the other guys that are super consistent. Escada and Patino are as good as it gets in the league, both top 10 pitchers for sure. Flaherty also up there. So you have really good arms there in Pittsburgh starting rotation. And then on the back end, you have some really good relievers. You got Noah Song had a really strong year. Bunch of almost 40% strikeout rate, really beast. Andre Lara, there's a super talented dude, almost 3 WAR too. Horner's a really talented guy, could also start. Just have a ton of really high-end arms here in Pittsburgh. You get 65, 55, 65 here. So Alex Reyes started to lose a little bit of control here, but still has that really high impact arm. If he can stay healthy there, still had a 3.49 FIP, which is pretty good. So yeah, a lot of nice arms there. And then, like I said, the real improvement was offense. This year they had really improved their offense. So Bregman and Ramirez, they're both big bats at first base, DH type stuff. Gleyber Torres, Corona had a really good year for them. 3.3 WARs, a 130 OPS plus guy with that profile is pretty impressive. Probably a little bit playing above his talent level a little bit there, but still, it's a pretty solid hitter. Shortstop does 50 contact, 60 gap. Some athleticism, not bad. But yeah, actually played really well there. Had a huge ISO there. Hit the ball really hard this year. So really good year out of him. And you got the really talented. You got 80 eyes at left field and right field. That's just disgusting. No other team baseball probably ever had that. Those two guys are just a nightmare to get through here in the middle of this lineup. You got the leadoff hitter and number 3 hitter, Soto, with those 80 eyes, and then you get the big bat Bregman in the middle that also has 65 eye. And then fourth, you got Willie Calhoun, who is hitting with a 55 eye, a really good profile. So those top 4 hitters are just really tough, and a lot of lefties there. So you really need some good right-hand pitching if you're going to be able to survive them, or you got to have a lot of lefty specialists in the late game situations to come in against Soto, Calhoun type thing. So that's a really, really good lineup, and it makes sense why they were second in the NL and almost all the hitting stuff, second in hits, second in runs, obviously behind Colorado. So most years they might even be number 1 if it wasn't for that historical Colorado offense. So that's going to be a really good matchup. It's really just going to come down, I think, to whichever team gets better starts out of their number 3, 4 guys. It's going to be really hard to beat Escada and Patino. When those 2 guys are on the mound, how good they are with how good Pittsburgh's offense is, it's really hard to beat them. So you're really going to have to take advantage and try and beat Flaherty or Esposito there. And yeah, I think Pittsburgh maybe is just a smudge better, but Atlanta's got a really good team. It really is just pretty much a coin flip when it comes to the playoffs. Really small sample size. Even the better teams can win in certain situations. So I'll say Pittsburgh in 6 or 7. Really, really good team there. But yeah, I really like Atlanta too, so it doesn't really matter. I'm not heavy on that. So anyways, next up we have the other NL matchup. This is the big one here. I could have saved this till last, but this matchup is going to be awesome. San Francisco is just a beast lineup. They have, Colorado and San Francisco are both just beast lineup. We'll start with Colorado here. Obviously, we talked a lot about them all year. Pretty much the best offense of all time. They hit 317, which I imagine is the all-time record. I'd imagine the runs record is 1,183. It's just outrageous. Not many teams score over 1,000 runs ever, and that's almost 183 more than that. So just incredible offense. We don't need to talk about anymore. Everyone's looked at their stats all season. Pretty much had like 7 of the top 10 batting average players in the league. And that's not just the Coors effect. Coors effect's minor, but there's a lot of leagues you play in Colorado. Just never has 5 of the top 6 batting average guys. So that's just how good they are. Obviously, Coors doesn't hurt, but really led by the crown jewel here is Jonathan Peterson. That guy is right in the MVP race there. The 2 MVP favorites are probably Peterson and Leto facing off against each other in the series. So just to add another little element of it there. Kyle Wright's as good as it gets, best pitcher in baseball. Anthony Susak's really getting close to that level too. Susak definitely has a shot at some Cy Youngs here in the next few years. He's had 9 WAR over the last 2 seasons. Guys actually hitting 291 against him. He still had 4 WAR. Just really limited the home runs and the walks. But yeah, just not even a great year, and he still had 4 WAR. Just shows how talented he is, how good he is. I really wish I didn't trade him away. And then the young gun here has really stepped up at 2.5 WAR in 15 starts. Danny Frono had a really good year. Another rook here, 2.6 WAR. Guy had really good numbers here across the board. Just let up a few too many hits, but 4.4 FIPS, not great, but with how good their offense is, as long as you have an average start, you're all good. Next up, we'll look at the San Francisco team they're playing against here. San Francisco, I haven't focused on as much for sure, but the runs against are just so low, 589. So you get the mega power defense and pitching here. 589 runs against in the 162 game season against a team that scored 1,183 in Colorado. So that is a crazy 600 run swing, 593 actually, something like that. So just a hilarious ratio, kind of like the old saying, the unstoppable force versus immovable object. That's really what you get here, just elite defense and BAP, like a 279 BAP. First overall in efficiency and zone rating, 49 zone rating. Most of that come from Luke Leto, a lot from Harrison Bader, I'd imagine, the outfield, 7. Just incredible defense. So Arenado's really good defensively too. He was at a 10 zone range. That was a lot of that actually. So yeah, you got really elite players at the important spots there, and then you got the huge bats in the middle of the lineup, Hudson Potts. So the really key here is going to be San Francisco's offense. They're only 11th in batting average and 11th in hits. So it's really going to be. I just realized that. Colorado almost had more runs scored than San Francisco did hits. That's crazy. But yeah, it's the first on base and balls though, so they make up for their lack of hits with the walks. But yeah, this is gonna be interesting. as amazing as San Francisco is, I love that squad. It's just really hard to see anyone beating Colorado this year. So I'll take Colorado just because they're so historically good. Best team in Major League Baseball history right in the regular season. 119 wins. That's the all-time record. So, yeah, that's pretty crazy there. Unfortunately, I have to speed this up a bit. I do not have much time here, so unfortunately, I won't be able to give the AL teams as much time as I would like. On the AL side of things, we have a really good matchup here too. Toronto versus Boston. They've been battling each other all season. Boston always been really good with the pitching and defense. Andrelton always captain in that defense. He has gone down a little bit offensively, but he actually had a really good year, even though his ratings are down. That just shows ratings aren't everything. He always limits those strikeouts, so he always hits better than you think he should. If you looked at the other four without looking at the Void K, you just be lucky to get 60 OPS plus out of that. The Void K must be important because he always seems to play a lot better than that. He has like 90 OPS plus, 99 this year and 87 last year, so always plays better than his rating. So really, really talented overall player. Had a huge career, almost 40 years old now, which is crazy. Mike Trout, obviously, we'll see if he can hit in the playoffs. I don't think he has hit very well in the playoffs in the history of TLG. He had made it a few times in LA, and in the one series both times, he was just terrible. 0 home runs. He had a 43 and a negative 33 OPS plus. Then he moved over to Arizona, and he played in the one series, and he hit 250 with 2 bombs, so he's okay there. Then he had the next season in Arizona, he hit 200 with 0 home runs and a 50 OPS plus. And then his last series there in Arizona, he was okay again. Had a home run and a couple hits, hit 250. So he's never hit spectacular in the playoffs. The guy is really looking to hopefully play more than one round in the playoffs this season. So we'll see how Mike Trout can deliver, the best baseball player of all time in TLG. I know some people think Trout, some guys, the Babe are better, but we'll see. We'll see when it's all said and done. Trout has a few more good years out of him. You got a lot of really good players here. The real hurt is the injuries in Boston. They lost a really good player here in Corbin Carroll. He was on pace for like a 5 WAR season yet again. Had a 5.8 WAR season a couple years ago. Guy's a monster, so that really hurts them. But if any team can handle it, it's them. Victor Robles is able to shift in center field if he needs, and Nate Dick out here has 70 range and really filled in. So pretty much 3 center fielders here with Trout still having 65 range. So it's crazy. They still got 3 really, really good center fielders. Had 4 before. Crazy depth. So Boston's just done an incredible job there. Collected middle of the field talent that can be really rangy. That's why their defense is so good every season. They're 3rd this year. First in runs allowed there, and first in offense in most of the categories. So this is an incredible powerhouse 106 win team. On the other side of things, you got Toronto here, first in earned run average from the pitching side of things. So them and Boston were just right at the top of the standings here pitching wise across the AL. So a really good matchup. You essentially got the top 2 or 3 teams in offense and defense on both sides of the ball. So really evenly matched by the stats. Toronto doesn't have the star power that Boston has. No one really does. Like when you get Trout and all those guys who won like 4 World Series titles, but Toronto does have some pretty heavy talent just without that postseason success. Vallejo is an absolute monster. Shepard has been a revelation as a rookie there. Just been awesome. It's too bad he's injured for a little while. We'll see how long he's not 100% for, which kind of really stings for them. Grisham's a really good player. That's been in the league a long time. Never really had a lot of playoff success either. So he'll have a shot to step up in the playoffs. And a lot of young players in the infield. And you got the 2 vets here at first base DH. Just an absolute monstrous lineup. Marino has a lot of playoff experience in Pittsburgh there too. So we really love that Toronto team. And then they're pretty young on the pitching side of things, minus a couple 33-year-olds here. And Bayard and Bednar, a couple of vets there, but a lot of mid-20s guys, and then you got one old guy in here, Shawnee Poppin. So love that matchup. Again, Boston's probably just a little better. As you can see by the win total every year, they just seem to finish a little ahead of Toronto. But again, it's the playoffs. It's so tight. It's real close. Those teams are just so close statistically. It's closest as ever been. So really interesting matchup there. And then the last one here, we got Houston. Houston is taking on the White Sox. Houston had 93 wins. They are a monstrous offense. They were top 5 in all the offense categories and top 5 in all the defense categories. So essentially like Toronto, but just not quite as high, where Toronto was like 2nd in everything. Houston's like 4th in everything. So a really good team with 2 amazing middle of the lineup bats. I always say Pena and Bellinger. Bellinger being out a couple games really hurts. I think he's out one more game. That's it. But those are the best, probably the best combo of hitters, like really since like Maris and Mantle probably. Like it's that special. They're even better than Ortiz and Manny when it comes to stats. Just no one's in their league. They both hit like 50 and 60 home runs every season. It's just insane. Bellinger's a top 5 player in the history of baseball when it comes to TLG career he's had. He's led the league in WAR like fucking 6 times. So just an absolute freak of nature. Really good team around them too. You got Didi still chucking along in his old age. Matty Chapman still an elite defender, and then you got You got Jerry Carreno had a really big second half of the year. The rookie hit 330, just a monster. And then some really, really good pitchers. They really hurts having Asa Lacy injured, but they still have Tracy, Quantrill, Maxwell, and Castillo, really good players there. And then the last team here is Chicago. Chicago had 100 wins. Chicago was barely in the top 10 in pitching, but their offense was pretty good. Statistically, number one in runs scored, actually above Toronto and Boston. A ton of runs scored because they had a ton of extra base hits, a lot of ISO power there. It's pretty good base running there, plus 30 on the base pass, really, really good. Top 5 in offensive WAR, and then 7th in pitching WAR. So the only kind of bad pitching staff left in the entire playoffs. Almost every other team we looked at is like top 4 in pitching. So that's the one team that their pitching stats aren't up there. But if you look at their individual pitchers, they just didn't have great years. Massey is a little bit more talented than stats showed this year. Same with Soto, kind of like their low WAR season. Soto had like a 5 or 6 WAR season. He's down to 3 this year. Keller has some really good ratings. He only had 0.7 WAR. A lot of the bullpen into this season. And then you got Joe Burke's pretty good. So they still got really good pitchers. Just didn't have quite as great of a year. Maybe it was the defense not being as good or something. At 14th, that probably hurt quite a bit. But talent-wise, the pitchers are really good. So it's not like they're that far behind those other teams left in the playoffs. I'd say pitching-wise, pretty equal as starting pitchers when it comes to the White Sox versus Houston. So yet another close series. These ones are all just going to be awesome. So really excited for all these series here, where I'm going to go with Boston in 7. That Toronto series, Boston, I think will be really close. I think it'll go a full 7. Unless we're only doing 5-game series in the DS, I can't remember, but it might still just be a 5-game series. But this series will be close too. I'm going to go with Houston. I think Cody Bellinger is overdue. I'd love to go with Kid Canada there, boy Cam White Sox, but without being biased at all, I just have a gut feeling Bellinger is going to pull through it. Bellinger is just too good here. I think he'll mash a little bit on that pitching, but we'll see. I love that Houston team. I think Houston White Sox, it's too bad they're playing each other. I think they're both due for some more playoff success, so it's too bad one of those teams has to lose. I'd like to see both of them get farther, get right to a World Series, but both teams are just awesome dynasties they built, and they're just in the playoffs constantly, so love both those squads. Anyways, that's it for now. Have enjoy. Hopefully you guys watch this and enjoy the next series.